General Motors deals a devastating blow to the province's automotive industry, announcing it's cutting the third shift at its Oshawa plant, impacting hundreds of jobs. Good afternoon. We begin in Oshawa, where auto workers have learned GM is significantly reducing its operation.
It comes as the province's automotive sector has already been battered by Trump's tariffs. CTV's Janice Golding is live in Oshawa with more details. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, it's a very grim day here at GM Oshawa, where workers have just learned that the third shift will be slashed within 6 months. Now, the cuts come amidst a trade war, then the imposition in March of a 25% tariff on Canadian-built cars. Unifor says the, quote, Trump tariffs are clearly aimed at Canadian assembly plants like Oshawa. Unifor says this will impact more than 700 of the plant's 3,000 employees, adding another 1,500 jobs will be impacted in the auto parts supplier network. The Oshawa plant assembles light and heavy-duty Chevrolet Silverado pickup trucks. Unifor points out that these vehicles are also assembled in factories in the U.S. and Mexico.
We are devastated here in Oshawa. This is going to have an enormous impact on our membership. We have members out there that rely on General Motors and the supply chain, their jobs, to provide a living for their family. So today is a very upsetting day.
I'm pretty angry today, the same way that our members are, I can assure you. The reality is that this decision by General Motors is clearly being done to appease Donald Trump, to look out for themselves in this trade war and not their employees. And I remind General Motors, as I've done this week, they sell a hell of a number of cars in this country, and we expect them to build here.
This recent announcement is 100% due to auto tariffs. It's nothing on our members. You know, so right now you have one of the biggest corporations in the world appeasing Donald Trump administration in the United States of America, and they're forgetting about Canadians.
I'm sad that this happened. I'm sad for the workers. Workers are going to be shocked and reeled right now, and they don't know what to do. And they've got mortgages to pay and bills to pay and kids to feed.
The union also says this announcement is premature, saying GM has not given Prime Minister Mark Carney the opportunity to sit down with President Trump to hammer out a new economic deal. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Still ahead this noon hour, the Leafs knocked out the Ottawa Senators in the Battle of Ontario. More on the series-clinching win a little later in the newscast.
A ceremony was held today commemorating the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. The Dutch forever grateful to the Canadian troops who played a huge role in freeing their homeland during the Second World War. Today, the bravery and sacrifices of those soldiers was honored. Veterans, dignitaries, and Dutch officials gathered to pay tribute. More than 100,000 Canadians took part in the military campaign that ran from September 1944 to the close of the war in May of 1945. More than 6,000 were killed. It was a very challenging operation, battling the enemy in difficult terrain and conditions. The Canadians led the forces that fought their way through, leading to the eventual liberation and the defeat of the enemy.
Few words could ever truly convey the deep emotions that we feel here in the Netherlands, in Groesbeek Canadian War Cemetery, as we gather to commemorate the valiant souls who so courageously fought for freedom during the Second World War. Nowhere is the cost of peace more evident than among the graves of those who gave their lives to secure it. For the 2,610 Commonwealth soldiers buried here, we wish it could be different. We wish that they could stand amongst us, frail as some by now would be, and that they too could feel the magnitude of this moment. They gave their lives for us, for a country that knows and has never forgotten the profound value of freedom and of peace.
The Canadians played a pivotal role in liberating the Netherlands that suffered greatly during the enemy occupation. Today's ceremony was one of the events this spring and summer that will commemorate Victory in Europe Day. And CTV's Andrew Johnson attended today's ceremony and joins us live now from the Netherlands. Certainly looks like powerful stuff. Set the scene for us there today.
Well, it really is remarkable, 80 years after the end of the Second World War, that the Canadian government has brought more than 20 veterans back to the Netherlands. Remarkable because they are all in and around 100 years old or more than 100 years old. They made the trip overseas, and they were sitting only meters from the men they fought beside so long ago, who made the ultimate sacrifice. And as he mentioned there, the Canadians were hailed as heroes here. The Dutch were in rough shape through the winter of 44 to 1945. There was a German blockade. Food wasn't getting through. There was a widespread famine. 20,000 people died. The Canadians led the way, pushing into the Netherlands, bringing boxes of food. Holland was so grateful, and the end of the war was near as well, and a Canadian Lieutenant General was on hand as the Germans surrendered in the Netherlands. So the ties between the two countries run deep. I've seen a few Canadian flags here. I'm in Apeldoorn, and there'll be a parade here, which has become tradition, honoring the liberation and the Canadian effort, and there will be another ceremony at a Canadian War cemetery also this weekend. 80 years later, it hasn't faded, and the veterans, one of them mentioned from Canada Today at the cemetery, they know they won't be getting back here again. This is it, and they're just happy that people are still telling their stories and remembering the sacrifice of Canadians.
It is quite poignant to see the veterans who've made it all that way. Have you had a chance to talk to some of them? What are they saying?
We're waiting to speak with them tomorrow, but as I said, those who did speak as part of the program today talked about the sacrifice and how much has happened in the world since, and how important it is for all of us, as he mentioned off the top there, to remember what happened, to remember the sacrifice of Canadians, and to never let go despite the passing of the generations and the passing of these lives. There aren't too many Second World War veterans left, so they are very grateful, and we are looking forward to speaking with them tomorrow, for sure.
Can you give us a sense of who else is there as part of this Canadian contingent?
Well, we have a Canadian contingent of government officials. Veterans Affairs has a large group here. They've really scaled up for the 80th. These celebrations in the Netherlands actually happen every year. Every 5 and 10 years it scales up, and that's how strong the ties between the two countries still are. And there has been concern that as the Second World War veterans, as they leave us, as fewer of them left, these events will grow smaller and smaller, but no sign of that from who's shown up from Canada so far this weekend.
And it is such a wonderful opportunity to remind Canadians, especially young Canadians who might not be aware of this rich history and this connection that we have. CTV's Andrew Johnson live for us in the Netherlands following this special occasion. We really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Take care.
We have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. A good-looking Friday, a few clouds, but the sun is shining, and it is a great day to get outside if you can and enjoy it. As for the rest of the weekend, that's where Lindsay Morrison comes in. Hey, Lindsay, a lot of fans of the Leafs very happy today.
I think so, Nathan, and many of them still drying out from last night down at Scotiabank Arena. Let's take a look at what we are seeing right now on the satellite and radar imagery. Just going to see if I can adjust my microphone here.
Able to hear me better, a little bit better now. Hi there, you might be able to hear me. Here's a look at our satellite and radar imagery. And we have some cloud just north of the city of Toronto at this time, but lots of sunshine around the Golden Horseshoe. Winds are coming out of the west right now. They're gusting to around 50 kilometers per hour at times. So strong once again, but we're getting a surge of mild air. It's already 19 degrees in Niagara Falls. That's our forecast daytime high at Pearson Airport as well. We're on our way, 17 at this hour. Enjoy the sunny period, slight chance of showers for today, and then really the threat of some wet weather every day over the first week of the month of May. We're going to take you through that weekend forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Emergency crews are on the shores of Lake Ontario in Mississauga after a submerged vehicle was spotted in the water early this morning. Peel paramedics say they were called to the area of Cawthra and Lakeshore just before 6 a.m. Passers-by had reported this cube van sticking partially out of the water. First responders spent the next several hours carrying out rescue efforts, including the use of police divers and underwater drones. They were able to get the van out. So far, there's been no confirmation that there was anyone inside. An ambulance is standing by on the scene.
North of the city, police are asking for help identifying suspects in a vehicle arson in Vaughan. This video is from the morning of April 5th in the parking lot of a shopping plaza near Yonge and Steeles. The video shows a white Honda Odyssey van driving up to a parked BMW. Eventually, someone gets out and appears to pour something on the vehicle before setting it on fire and driving away. Police are now asking anyone with information or anyone who might have witnessed this incident to get in touch with them or Crime Stoppers. Turning now to what police say was a tragic accident in North York.
A boy has succumbed to his injuries after falling from a balcony of a building yesterday. CTV's John Musselman is live on the scene with more details on this. John.
Well, Nathan, this devastating incident happened in the building behind me. It's a 14-story building. The child was on the 10th floor balcony when he fell yesterday afternoon. This happened around 4:30 in the afternoon. We'll show you some video from the scene yesterday. I did speak to some tenants. They said first responders arrived on the scene. The child did land on the grassy area of the building here. He was rushed to hospital in critical condition, but he did not survive. Some tenants told me that the boy and another child living in a unit on the 10th floor, they did see him quite often in the corridor playing. They're devastated by what happened here. The whole building is sort of shaken by what's happened here. We did have a chance to speak to some residents who interacted with this family and this child. Here's what they had to tell us.
When I got home, I seen all of the police cars, an ambulance, and the tape all on this side. It was one of these balconies over here. And I went on my phone and I seen the alert that a little child had fell off the 10th floor and he was going to the hospital. And last night, when I got on my phone again, it said that he died last night in the hospital.
6 or 5 kids in there. But because sometimes they would be outside here playing, or if not, you see them going to school. But otherwise, you know, we don't really know.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. Now, we did get a chance to go out to one of the balconies on the 8th floor. We did go out to a balcony on the 8th floor. They are fairly new. About 2 years ago, they installed a sort of a black glass balcony, and they are at the standard height. There is some, in cases, many of the cases here, there's stuff piled up on the balconies. We don't know what happened in this situation, but one tenant says she's known her grandson to climb up on stuff, so she keeps him off that balcony at all times. At this point, police are calling this just simply a tragic accident. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Detectives have identified the man killed on Sunday in Etobicoke. Sunday morning, police responded to a motel near the Queensway and Royal York Road. They say 2 men were inside a room when one stabbed the other. 50-year-old Eligio Martinez Gomez of Toronto was rushed to hospital where he died of his injuries. Police that day arrested 57-year-old Tanish Smagranovsky of no fixed address. He's charged with second-degree murder. And Peel police have made an arrest in a deadly daylight shooting in Brampton last month. Investigators say a man was killed after shots were fired into a vehicle at a shopping plaza near Bramley Road and Dewside Drive. That victim hasn't been identified, but witnesses said he owned a shop in the plaza. Police say they took 30-year-old Barleet Singh Gill into custody this week and charged him with first-degree murder.
York Regional Police say they've arrested a second suspect in connection with the killing of a Markham woman last summer. 57-year-old Ying Zhang went missing from the Woodbine and Steelcase Road area back on July 25th. Investigators found her body in Kawartha Lakes 4 days later. 26-year-old Changlin Yang was originally charged with second-degree murder, but is now facing a first-degree murder charge. York Regional Police say 53-year-old Fred Hu Li has also been charged with first-degree murder, and there are no outstanding suspects. Also today, a sentencing hearing is scheduled for a teen girl who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the death of a Toronto homeless man. Kenneth Lee was 57 when he was attacked by a group downtown in 2022. 59, rather. The girl, who was 16 at the time, entered a surprise guilty plea in February as she was being tried for second-degree murder. The trial continued for her co-accused, and a verdict is expected in that case at the end of the month.
The sex assault trial of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team continues today in a London courtroom. CTV's Nick Paparella joins us live. with the latest. And Nick, we've heard testimony already in this trial. Are there any highlights that you can share?
Well, the testimony is being heard this hour right now, Nathan, on the 14th floor here at the London courthouse. Earlier this morning, we heard from Taylor Radish. Now, he started his testimony on Wednesday. Yesterday was an off day because a juror was ill, and he resumed this morning. He is testifying remotely because he's a member of the NHL's Washington Capitals. He told the court that he was very proud to be a member of that 2018 gold medal winning team. Now, when he spoke about being at Jack's Bar, and that's the bar that all the players were at that night, he says he doesn't remember much, but he does remember at the end of the night going back to the Delta Armories Hotel, and that's when one of the accused, Michael McLeod, called him to his room. He says he remembers going to the room, seeing a woman on the bed. He was questioned whether she was naked. He said no, she was under the covers, and then he quickly left the room. Right now, another player from that gold medal winning team is testifying. He just started, Boris Kachuk, and he says yes, he remembers being at that same bar, Jack's Bar, partying, but he says he was too intoxicated to remember much because it was his birthday and they were celebrating the big win. So that's where we stand right now.
And what's the mood been like inside that courtroom?
Well, right now it's still everyone is kind of waiting for the female complainant to testify, but everyone is taking it all in. The jury is taking all the evidence in. Justice Maria Caracia told them not to make any decisions until all the evidence is in, and this one is supposed to last another 8 weeks or so, Nathan. So they're going to have a lot of time to hear a lot of different evidence, and again, the key evidence coming from the female complainant in this case.
Have you heard anything else about possible upcoming witnesses?
Well, she is expected to be next, and so we don't know, Nathan, right now if she is going to be up this afternoon or possibly Monday or Tuesday.
All right, CTV's Nick Paparella in London. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Prime Minister will travel to Washington on Tuesday to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump for the first time since Monday's federal election. Mark Carney held his first news conference this morning, outlining some of his government's agenda.
My government will focus on keeping Canada secure as a sovereign nation and Canadians safe in their communities. We'll build a stronger Canadian armed forces to protect Canadians, defend our sovereignty, and support our allies. We'll strengthen our border security with 1,000 more CBSA officers, as well as scores of dog teams, drones, and scanners to fight the traffic of guns and drugs. We'll strengthen Canadian law enforcement by hiring 1,000 more RCMP officers and giving law enforcement more tools to fight crime. We will toughen the criminal code and bail laws for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, human trafficking, and smuggling.
Carney said he doesn't want to negotiate in public when asked if he would insist on the U.S. tariffs being lifted as a condition of negotiations with the Trump administration. The PM announced today Parliament will resume sitting on May 26th, and the King will deliver the throne speech in the House of Commons on the 27th.
British Columbia is holding a day of mourning today to remember the victims of the attack in Vancouver last week. 11 people were killed after a suspect drove through a crowd of people attending the Lapu Lapu Festival. That was last Saturday. 16 people remain in hospital. A book of condolence for the victims has been set up at the BC legislature and can also be signed digitally. Returning to our top story, GM has announced it's cutting a third of its staff, make that the third shift at its Oshawa plant, impacting hundreds of jobs.
Reaction from political leaders is pouring into this major blow to the auto sector here in Canada. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us. There she is with more. Siobhan.
Well, this is exactly the sort of outcome that the Premier and so many politicians here at Queen's Park had been hoping could be avoided in the face of tariffs. I do have a statement from the Premier I'd like to share with you. This is part of it. It is quite long. Doug Ford writes, today's news from GM is extremely tough for the workers in Oshawa and their families. These are hardworking people who've helped build Ontario's auto industry. GM has reaffirmed its commitment to the Oshawa plant, which will continue building Ontario-made trucks for years to come. We will continue doing everything we can to support a strong future for this facility and its workers. We also heard from Prime Minister Mark Carney in the last hour expressing sympathy for those who are finding themselves out of work. Here's what he had to say.
I just express my deepest sympathy for them and their families. A very difficult time. We are committed to supporting workers. All the dollars from our tariffs going to support workers. Fighting hard for our auto sector, all our sectors in these negotiations with the Americans, and making sure that companies act in true partnership as well in maintaining employment and investment in Canada. And if not, there will be consequences for those companies.
Federal Industry Minister Anita Anand says she's written to the head of GM Canada asking for an explanation, more details on these layoffs. Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles says she wants the Premier to reassure workers and their families that the province has a real plan, again, to keep those jobs here in Ontario. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Well, major relief for Toronto fans. The Leafs won another Battle of Ontario, ousting the Ottawa Senators in 6 games.
Next up is a date with the defending Florida Panthers. CTV's Sean Leathong is live in Maple Leaf Square with more fan reaction and a look ahead to what's next. And woo, it was wild there last night.
It was, Michelle. Never in doubt, right? Never in doubt. Well, actually, it might have been in doubt a little bit last night. It was a very exciting game in the nation's capital with the Leafs jumping out to a 2-0 lead, but then Ottawa coming back to tie it in the 3rd period. But the new hero for the Toronto Maple Leafs is veteran Max Pacioretty, who scored with just over 5 minutes to go in the 3rd period to put the Leafs up 3-2. And from there, the team locked it down, getting some very timely shot blocks and an empty netter from William Nylander to put them over the top. Last night in Maple Leaf Square, it was rocking. There was nerves at times, but the crowd was really into it, and there were some fans talking about just how excited they were after the game. And I also talked to a few fans about how they're feeling this morning and what they're looking for when we face the Florida Panthers in the next round. Here's what they had to say.
I don't even have words right now, honestly. My heart is pounding at a million seconds.
Past experience, I did have that worry, but I should have known. Ebony Stollarks and this team are different, and we are going all the way. They've sent for it.
It's pretty special. I mean, I'm English, so I've only been in the city about 3 years now, so I don't have the heartbreak that some of you folks have had to endure, but, 3 years is enough.
It was nice to get past the first round for once, so I felt really good about it.
Next round, another Tkachuk boy. Let's go. We should be able to beat them in 6 games.
6 games?
6 games. You heard it here first from the voice of reason from Newmarket.
Of course, the Leafs will now move on to the Florida Panthers. As mentioned there, Brady Tkachuk played for the Ottawa Senators. His brother Matthew Tkachuk plays for the Florida Panthers. There is a lot going on for the Leafs looking into the next round. We know the Florida Panthers are the defending Stanley Cup champions. They've added some new people at the trade deadline, namely Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins, who has been a Leaf killer in the past. So there's a lot of demons still waiting in the 2nd round for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see how they do. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. I'll set it back inside.
Well, thank you, Sean. And, we've been in the spring season for some time now, but there's something different about arriving to the month of May. Of course, many people are suffering from seasonal allergies. The wet weather over the last couple of days actually good for clearing the air. Here's a look at the pollen report. Very low readings for all of the items that you see there. This weekend, there's a little bit of active weather in store, but good news for the Toronto Marathon. Looks like conditions will stay dry on Sunday morning. Bit of a different story by the end of the day. We're going to take you through the forecast with everything you need to know after this break here on CTV News.
The weather is getting warmer. We are well into spring, and another sign of the season is the opening of major attractions. Our Jessica Smith is at Centerville getting a preview. Jess.
Nathan, it is so cool. This is kind of like a coming home in a certain way, because I haven't been to the island in such a long time, and we're here in the Centerville Amusement Park just before it opens. I'm planning my routes right now, but I'm joined by Lori. You can hear the chopper above us. We're getting that kind of shot, the aerial shot of the island. This place has such a special place in the hearts of so many people. It opens up again this weekend. You're celebrating 57 years. What can people expect from this season at the Centerville Amusement Park?
Well, we're really excited to be welcoming families back tomorrow, May 3rd, for our season. And we've got a jam-packed season. All the rides are ready. A couple of them, the water rides, don't start until the water gets a bit warmer. But throughout the season, we have events that are happening, and we're excited to have everyone back.
And this place is just so accessible. If you have a dog, you can bring your dog down, you can bring the whole family, but who is the park for? I mean, I'm walking around thinking about, okay, I want to get beaver tails, I want to get pizza, I want to go on the train ride, which is open again this year, you mentioned. But talk to me about who the park is for.
Sure. The rides are designed for families with younger children. It's designed after a old town, Ontario town, and it's a step of nostalgia. But the great thing is that all of our rides could be accessible to people who are grandparents or people who are teens. The kids love it 100%, and the great thing about coming to our park is that many of the people who come to watch kids have a great time and don't have to go on the rides and don't have to pay an admission fee, and they just walk through the park themselves.
And we obviously have the really fun rides here, but there's also some animals. Talk to me about the animals, because you have some new baby animals, and really, who doesn't love seeing baby animals?
Right. Yeah, our farm is definitely love to come and see all of the animals that we have. In the wintertime, they go up north to a farm where they're well cared for, and then in the spring they start making their way back. Their homes are all ready. They've been mucked out and painted and are well. And so right now, some animals have about.
Now, I know we were talking before we came on camera about the train, but talk to me about that, because it wasn't happening for a little while, but it's back just in time for the opening tomorrow.
Right. Our Centerville train is so beloved by so many people, and during the floods that many people might remember from back in 2017, 2018, it damaged a lot of the tracks, and it has taken a very long time to get it back and running, and we are so excited to have it running for everyone to come in, take a ride. That is one of the rides that the whole family enjoys.
So for people wanting to plan their trip, how do they do that really quick?
Yeah, so they would go on to our website, centerisland.ca, and on that site there's all the information that they would need, from ticket prices, how to get over, the weather, anything that they need. And if they can't find what they need, there's a way to contact us.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lori, so much. I'm going to plan my trip, and we're going to leave the weather to the expert, Miss Lindsay. We'll send things back inside, and I'm going to start figuring out what I'm going to do when I come back to the park. Bye, guys.
Oh, have fun. We're
Lots
all
to do.
reminiscing here. I mean, everybody has a Centerville memory, and it is fun to then take your kids and have them experience it, and it's even better when the weather cooperates.
Yeah, part of the fun is just getting on the ferry, then, of course, all the stuff you can do while you're there. It's just a great thing to do, especially on the weekend.
Yes, I'm already mentally planning my next trip to the island. That looks like so much fun. And if you're planning on heading out to the island perhaps this weekend, we do have a little bit of active weather that we're going to be tracking at times. It's not a washout of a weekend, but you might need to keep the umbrella handy really throughout this whole first week of the month of May. A little unsettled to get things started. Weather is brought to you by the Pressler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. This morning it wasn't rain, it was fog that actually had moved in over the GTA, especially the East End. This is Durham region. You're seeing the fog hovering over the Oshawa area, both from the sky and on the ground. There was a fog advisory in place at one point. That has since come to an end. The fog has burned off, but yeah, a little spooky looking early this morning. Let's talk about temperatures. It's already very mild out there, so enjoy your afternoon. 18 degrees this hour in Windsor, 16 in Trenton, and 17 here locally in Toronto. Forecast daytime high, 19 degrees. So we are on the warm side of seasonal. Average daytime high at this point point in the month of May is about 16 degrees. Evening is looking pretty pleasant too. I think most areas are going to remain dry today, but we do have to mention that there is the chance of a shower this afternoon and early this evening. Then overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies and a seasonal low of 7 degrees. It's into tomorrow morning that things become a little more unsettled once again, especially for Toronto and areas south. So Welland, we've got a mostly rainy icon on there for you tomorrow. St. Thomas, 60% chance of showers for you. Temperatures are also going to be a little bit cooler. Look at Collingwood, only 8 for a daytime high tomorrow afternoon. 12 for you in Huntsville, and then Trenton, 40% chance of showers as well. Here's the current satellite and radar. You can see a decent amount of sun around the Golden Horseshoe, more cloud the further north you travel. Right now, it looks like the majority of the wet weather is south of the border. Again, I do think most areas will remain dry today, but let me show you what's in store when it comes to our forecast radar, specifically when it comes to tomorrow morning. So there's the increase in cloud cover. Here's about 6 a.m. So plan on some showers. Bring the umbrella with you if you are an early riser. That's expected to taper off. The cloud cover breaks up a little bit and we enjoy a pretty nice afternoon. Then Sunday, it's the opposite situation. We're going to start off hopefully dry with some sunshine. You can see a little bit of cloud impacting some areas, and then showers begin to approach from the south. It's going to be close. We might stay dry all day, or we can expect some wet weather for the second half of that day, and then likely overnight into the day on Monday. Monday and Tuesday, umbrella weather once again. Looks like we're going to be a little milder into next Wednesday. That's the forecast for now. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, spring showers are great for growing flowers, but can prove problematic for homeowners. Basement flooding is a real concern in many Toronto neighborhoods, but there are steps you can take to protect your property. It's been a wet spring, and as we're approaching the summer rainstorm season, now's a good time to inspect your property to protect it from flooding.
Grading is very, very important. Grading your property away from your house is the most important thing you can do to prevent water from getting into your foundation.
Bill Shea's with the City of Toronto Water Department. He says it's important to make sure your downspouts are properly attached and in good shape, and pay close attention to any cracks in the foundation.
Here you can see that we've put some caulking into a crack in the foundation here. And there's caulking all the way around this window. And this is a modern window, so it's less likely to have that issue. Yep. But that's what you want to do. You want to make sure if the water comes up to this level, it's not going into your foundation and then into your house.
And inside your home, Shea recommends people install this device. It's a backwater valve that prevents overflowing storm sewer water from entering your home.
It has a flap on it so the water can only go one way. So in other words, if there's a storm and the sewer backs up and water's coming in this way, it stops against that stop.
The city offers a $3,400 subsidy to help cover the costs. And there's good news for residents in the Rockcliffe Boulevard neighborhood near Jane and Black Creek. It's experienced devastating flooding over the years.
So what the city's doing for that is we're putting $1.4 billion into restructuring the Black Creek and taking away pinch points, also changing the sewers in the area such that we can move that water away and it's not flooding people's basements.
We know flooding can be a costly cleanup. Insurance experts say the most important thing people need to know is what their policy covers.
A lot of people will purchase an insurance policy and have assumptions in terms of what is covered. And for water coverage, because it is different by market and the type of coverage available to you and the different types we talked about, it is really important you understand what are you protected against. Based on where you live, what are your risks? And that's where a licensed insurance professional can help.
Experts say sewage backup and surface water entering your home is not always covered in a basic policy. So it's important to know what coverage you have and whether you need more.
Still ahead, a lifeline for kids who reach out for help. A first-hand account of why Kids Help Phone is a lifesaver and why walking this weekend will help fuel the vital work they do.
The Walk So Kids Can Talk is this weekend in support of Kids Help Phone.
As our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, it's a chance to enjoy the outdoors, raise some money, and discuss the topic of mental health with family.
It was a devastating loss, the death of his 17-year-old brother by overdose, that first prompted 14-year-old Matthew Revita to reach out to Kids Help Phone.
My parents ended up getting a divorce from that, and I always felt like I didn't want to burden them with my own struggles. You know, when you're the youngest son, And being a man at that time, being a male, I felt like I had to kind of just stand strong and not basically show any weakness at that time, especially around 2008 timeframe when mental health was still very much taboo.
He says he looked up to his brother, and realizing he was gone put him in a dark, dark place.
Those dark days of depression where I actually went into attempted to take my own life and had a failed suicide attempt. Thankfully that I'm here today to talk to yourself and share my story.
Last year alone, for example, we served young people 4.3 million times, and they're reaching out to us about a variety of different issues. We saw an increase in conversations, 28% increase in conversations around physical abuse, an 18% increase about conversations around eating disorders and body image. So we know that young folks have a lot on their mind these days.
Aaron Sanderson says that's why this weekend's Walk So Kids Can Talk is so important. 16 cities across Canada will be hosting the walks, aiming to raise $4 million to support kids' help phone services.
They go to the technology, they go to the clinicians so that we can continue to be there no matter how a young person chooses to reach out to us amongst the different services that we provide.
And while his brother is the person who sparked Matthew's first encounter with Kids Help Phone, he'll have another family member in mind this weekend.
Last year, I lost my mom from cancer, but I always tell people that it was her mental illness and her mental health is what really was killing her for 40 years of her life. She had a very severe childhood that I would never wish on anyone, and I feel like that kind of unfortunately took over her life.
If you or a loved one is experiencing mental distress, you can reach the Kids Help Phone online, by text, or at 1-800-668-6868. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Now to the spread of measles in this province, as officials report the largest increase yet in weekly infections since the start of the ongoing outbreak. To date, Public Health Ontario has reported 1,243 cases linked to the arrival of a single case from New Brunswick in October. That figure is up 223 from last week. Overall, 84 patients have needed hospital treatment. 80 of them were not immunized. Most were children. Opposition critics have questioned why there have been no news conferences from Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, on the fight against the highly contagious and potentially deadly virus. The health minister says he's actively involved in the response.
The work that Dr. Moore does, leading Ontario Public Health, leading all of the public health units, ensuring that they are focusing their efforts, we've made sure through Dr. Moore's leadership that there is sufficient vaccines for every public health unit who wants them. We have restarted a public education campaign that, frankly, was a recommendation of Dr. Moore to make sure that parents and caregivers understand the critical importance of getting that vaccine.
Public Health Ontario published these maps showing where measles infections have been concentrated, largely, but not only, in the province's southwest. The agency says case counts are rising because of continued transmission between people who aren't vaccinated. We're going to take a short break. Consumer Alert when we return.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
It's something we all use, and many of us have a dozen of them or more. We're talking about passwords. They unlock our phones, help us stream TV services, and check our bank accounts.
Many websites are hacked and identities are stolen because people continue to use easy passwords like 12345. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
We need passwords for so many different services, and many of us have a bad habit to use simple ones and recycle them. If criminals can figure out your passwords, they can hack your accounts.
We average 50 reports a day.
Detective David Coffey says in the first 4 months of this year in Toronto alone, residents have lost $168 million to various types of fraud. Many crimes begin with identity theft.
Identity theft is, the root of all fraud evil, pretty much, because you never know when your identity is going to be used and for what purpose.
Even though cybersecurity experts constantly warn us to use complex passwords, this year the 5 most common included 123456, QWERTY, and password.
Use a long, strong, unique password. Change it for every place you go to. Don't reuse those passwords.
While many of us will make an effort to use strong passwords for banking and credit cards, we may reuse simple passwords for other services. But criminals may already have those passwords from previous cyber attacks.
If you are reusing old passwords in that way,
then you should assume that they will be compromised. And it's probably a good practice to make that assumption and go out and change them, as soon as you can.
You may want to consider upgrading to a password manager or passkeys, which replace traditional passwords.
There's definitely a role to play for passkeys, password managers, password generators. Again, anything that helps make it easier for you to try and generate a random password.
And don't discount the password for your email. If criminals hack it, they could request password resets for your services.
For me, it's typed in every time, very long, very strong.
Biometrics such as face recognition and fingerprints may one day replace passwords, but until they do, we're all encouraged to try a little harder to create unhackable passwords. Pat Foran, CTV News.
We turn now to the sale of the Hudson's Bay brand. Potential buyers had till Wednesday to make a formal bid.
And there are multiple reports Canadian Tire is among those looking to purchase this country's oldest company. CTV's Adrian Gabriel reports.
The fabric of Canadian culture is in part woven into these 4 iconic stripes. And now there's a line of suitors hoping to purchase a piece of our national heritage.
It's sort of like buying a piece of Canada. You're getting a piece of Canada and a piece of Canada's history.
It's the Bay's intellectual property that Canadian Tire is reportedly eyeing with their purchase bid.
The intellectual property includes the Bay, Zellers, I believe it includes Gluckstein as well. So, it's quite fascinating to see if Canadian Tire wins, what they would do with those brands.
Though Canadian Tire isn't the only company in line. British Columbia billionaire Wei Hung Lee Hu has confirmed that she's placed a bid on 25 Hudson Bay stores after publicly disclosing her intent on Chinese social media. Lee Hu is the chair of a retail investment company that currently owns 3 malls in BC.
We could keep some history alive and maybe rejuvenate the brand.
Canadians have supported the Bay for years.
And it's that sentiment that has led Canadian private equity corporation Urbana to toss its hat into the ring. The company's chairman tells CTV News it too is interested in the Bay's intellectual property, and it also plans to bid on the company's founding charter document, inked by King Charles II in 1670.
It's a critical part of the beginning of our trading history, if you will, in the world. I've always felt that the Hudson Bay Company never really fully capitalized on that brand that they have. In fact, I think over the years they debased it somewhat.
The sale of the charter will take place at a separate auction. As for who will win the Hudson Bay sweepstakes, we should know in about a month. Our emails to Canadian Tire went unanswered today. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, London, Ontario.
Some breaking news this afternoon. A Conservative MP is giving up his seat to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election. The Conservative leader lost in the Ottawa area riding of Carleton on Monday night, a seat he held for 20 years. Now the party has announced Conservative MP-elect Damien Carrick will resign to allow Poilievre to run in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. That's in Alberta. Poilievre remains the leader of the party, but he's no longer the leader of the official opposition after losing his riding. The party caucus is set to meet Tuesday for the first time since the federal election that happened on Monday. Quick break, more when we return. There was a time when it was easy to tell where a call was coming from just by looking at the area code, but a dizzying array has been added over the last few decades, making it impossible to remember them all.
CTV's John Vennavally-Rao dials into the digital evolution of those first 3 numbers.
For Toronto area cell phone users, it's gonna take some getting used to. A brand new area code, 942, that started popping up on phones in a city still synonymous with the old school original.
942, yeah.
How does that sound to you?
I don't like it, to be honest. I think we got enough area codes, no? That's garbage.
Sounds a bit sketchy.
Yeah, exactly. The addition of Toronto's 4th area code, getting some shade on social media. Some suggesting 3 seemed plenty. And this new code comes just weeks ahead of British Columbia adding the province's 6th area code, 257.
It's a lot of numbers, and really, it's not just all people using these up. It's a lot of technology that's using these numbers up as well.
With phone numbers now assigned to things like cars, traffic lights, and tablets, demand for them is growing faster than the population. Adding an area code enables more than 7 million new phone numbers to be generated. And back in 1947, when such codes were first established, that was more than enough. Canada had 9 back then, but by the year 2000, it had shot up to 20. And later this month, it'll hit 55, expected to grow to 60 by the end of the decade.
There's a lot of new area codes now, and I don't know them.
Sean Iocacini runs a business that sells recycled phone numbers to customers wanting classic area codes like Toronto's 416. Numbers sell for as little as $50, though easy-to-remember ones like those ending with 4 zeros can fetch nearly $5,000.
Since 2016, we haven't had a day go by where we haven't sold a 416 phone number.
Is it still kind of cool, though, to have a 416 number? I think so. But I'm really old. And if you're not thrilled with 942, it is a problem you can buy your way out of. John Venavalley-Rouse, CTV News, Toronto.
Well, I still got a 416, one of my numbers.
I do too, but based on what that gentleman said, that means we're old.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's right.
I
am.
Classic. Let's go with classic.
There we go.
Let's take one more look at the weather as we make our way into the weekend. We'll begin, though, with what's happening right now, and that's the fact that temperatures are on the rise. We're still at 17, however, in Toronto, forecast high 19, dropping to 7 overnight tonight with a few clouds. There's your weekend forecast. Again, showers tomorrow morning, improving in the afternoon, and then Sunday the opposite. It looks like we could get some wet weather late day, following us into Monday and Tuesday, and it looks like we're going to be warming up again by the middle part of next week. Nathan and Michelle.
Not bad. Thanks, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Duday.
And I'm Nathan Dowder. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.